everybody, I'm Kate Conroy.
I'm Vanessa Vitello.
And this is Other People's Business, which is the podcast from the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, the largest statewide business association in the galaxy.
There you go.
I like
Catching on.
We release a new episode every other Wednesday, so be on the lookout for that. Better yet, just subscribe and then it shows up all magical and delightful in your feed. Shout out to New Jersey manufacturers.
And you can do that
Shoot, I always
at
forget.
njbia.org/subscribe.
This is like the 10th time in a row that I've suggested they subscribe and I forget to say how to do it.
You got to say and display it.
I'm not easily replaced.
That is
It's job
absolutely
security.
Yes, exactly.
That's so true. Shout out to New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance. They do home, auto, and workers' comp. So if you need some updated coverage, check them out. They are the official sponsor of the show.
Awesome. So with us today from Kerry Barrett Consulting is,
Correct.
wait for it, Kerry Barrett.
I know, it's shocking. Hello. Yes.
Say hi, let the audience hear your voice.
Thank you. It's great to be. This is my first podcast, by the way.
No way.
Ever.
You're like a
Yes.
straight-up communications professional. How is that possible?
You know what? I really don't know. I was thinking about it on the drive down here. I have never done a podcast. Always done news. I've done a lot of video, obviously, but so. Yeah.
I was going to say she was waiting for the right one.
That's, you know what? Darn it, that is what it was. Yeah. Nicely done. Well
Thank you.
played. Yes, I was waiting for the right one.
I love it. I'm so glad that we could be here for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, so today's icebreaker is, what are you binging right now?
Oh my gosh, The Walking Dead, which I realize is not new, right?
Oh, that doesn't matter.
Well, it started in 2010,
Yeah.
and I just discovered it.
Wow.
Like a week ago.
I thought you were going to tell me, like,
Wow.
you maybe
No.
like you hadn't watched the last season because they put it up on Netflix.
No. I haven't watched any of it. And
Wow.
here, well, the reason is, and it's not because I'm some like highbrow masterpiece theater watching type of person. Anybody who knows me knows better than that. However, I was in the news industry before I'm doing what I'm doing now, and so I was always getting up. My schedule was 1:30 in the morning. That was when my alarm went off. And so I was exhausted all the time. My bedtime was before all the good shows were on.
What time was your bedtime?
So it varied. Generally, it was 6 p.m., but that was before I had kids. After I had kids, it got a little more hairy. So I would come home from work at about 11 a.m. I would wash all of my makeup off, which took a while because TV makeup is thick.
Yeah.
And I would take a nap for 2.5 hours. And then I would wake up when the kids got home from school. And then I would, bath, bedtime, homework, dinner. I forgot that. Dinner, that's important too. And then I would put them to bed. And then I would go back to bed and kind of take another nap for 2.5, 3 hours, and that was my Monday through Friday. So that's why I
Your
didn't
naps
watch
are
any
like
TV.
half the time I sleep in
I
general.
know.
Like,
It was rough. I'm actually only 28, but I look like I'm 48.
Not at all.
Not really, but it was a rough schedule. Yeah. So that's why I haven't watched any TV.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering how that was looping back around to The Walking Dead. Yeah, The Walking Dead, I mean, like, those first few
good.
seasons, I don't know where you are, but some of the
Season
best
2.
television that's ever been made.
It is
Yes,
so, and it's
the first
not
few
even.
years.
I mean, it's not even the gore. Like, I think that's why people were initially like, "Oh, it's a zombie. What the heck is it going to be? It's new." But it's the plot line. There really actually is an interesting plot line. The character development and how they all work together. I think it's fascinating. My daughter, who just turned 9, really wants to watch it with me, and I'm like,
I mean, there's some really scary stuff in there,
I
but it's
know.
not a show about zombies
No,
if you
it's
haven't
not.
watched The Walking Dead. It's actually a show about people, and the zombies are just kind of like a bridge
They're
to
like
get us to, like, where would we be if we didn't have
Yes.
laws and stuff, you know?
Right,
so
right.
It's kind of like Lord of the Flies, I guess.
yes.
Or Battlestar Galactica. I remember when I was watching Battlestar, I thought, this isn't a space show. This is a show about people that just happens to be set in space.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That
Right.
really is what it is. It's a story about humanity.
Because you
What
haven't
every
watched The
good
Walking
story
Dead,
is
right?
about.
No, I haven't.
No, it's
No.
good.
I
recommend
don't
it.
like scary stuff.
Do you think it's scary? I
There
don't like
are-
scary stuff
okay.
either.
It on the whole, no. But then, like, there are times where they're like, all right, we're going to make stuff real. And, like, there are, I don't want to give anything away, especially for you, but
there's
even
a
for
lot
our
of
audience.
tendons and entrails.
Yeah, I mean, there are times where, like...
She's taking notes.
Walking Dead.
Avoid Walking Dead at all costs.
Well, the
right.
scariest thing you said you watched was, like, what, Hellboy or whatever, which is, like, not even on, like, the...
Wait, what is that? I don't
It was a movie from like the 90s?
No, it was 2000.
Was it 2000? Yeah, Ron
Perlman, yeah.
Perlman played Hellboy, and it's a movie based on a comic book, and it's not even that scary, but I had a nightmare, and so that's why
That was the end of it for you.
So The Walking Dead, I mean, the average Walking Dead episode, whatever, but like when they hit their like mid-season finales, season finales, that's when, you know, you would be like way over your threshold.
It gets a little hairy.
I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah.
All right, what are you binging?
Oh, I just finished Cobra Kai season 2. So it's basically.
You were telling me about this.
I know.
What is that?
So it's the Karate Kid 30 years later from the villain's perspective, and it is so good. And it's one of those things where it's a YouTube exclusive, and it's the Karate Kid 30 years later. So I'm like, my expectations were on the floor, and it is brilliant. It's one of the best shows I've seen in the last few years. Like,
is Ralph Macchio in it?
Yes, but because it's from the villain's perspective, Ralph Macchio is actually kind of like the antagonist.
Oh, that's interesting.
But not like he's not any worse than he used to be. Like he is the same kid, but he's just a little bit more pretentious now because he like owns a car dealership, and you know like he's on TV like we're gonna karate chop these prices, and like like the villain guy.
It doesn't sound that good.
No, it's brilliant. Okay, so the I can't remember the guy's name. It's Johnny from
the blonde guy.
Yeah, the blonde guy, Johnny from the original movie. They start the movie with that final kick. You know, the crane kick knocks Johnny out. You see Johnny on the floor, and then it just like fades into him now, drunk on the floor, whatever, 30 years later. And so like he's trying to pick his life back up, and you know it's that moment in your life where everything turned around. Like he had everything going for him in high school. I guess that was the point where like things started going south for him, and he just turns on the TV, and there is Ralph Macchio rubbing his success in his face, and I'm just like, okay, I'm on board, you know, and like. It's so interesting because, like, he gets this student, you know, he is now, like, the Miyagi type, but he's, like, he's not a bad guy, but he's, like, not a good guy either.
Right.
He's still kind of a jerk. So he's giving this kid, like, objectively terrible advice, but the kid is so good that it kind of, like, goes through this prism of, like, I'm a good kid, so, like, I'm gonna do this the way that, like, a good person was.
Yeah.
It's just, wow. You know, check it out.
For real.
Okay, what is the name of it again?
Cobra Kai. That was the
Cobra
name of the
Kai.
bad guy dojo in the original Karate
Okay.
Kid movie. Yeah.
I'm going to check that out.
And it just follows this path where I was not expecting it to go. But like to be fair, there aren't a lot of shows that follow the antagonist to begin with. You know, like the bad guy.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like open to like making its own template, and it worked.
I feel like Breaking Bad is the last show I watched where the antagonist was the
Yeah.
star of the show.
Now, Breaking Bad is better. I'm not going to try to say that, like, you know, Breaking Bad is on its own level of television quality.
I've
but,
never seen Breaking Bad. That's another one I need
It's
to
really
binge.
good.
Trust me, I have a list.
I'm
yeah,
sure, I'm
yeah.
sure.
It's good, right?
Oh, it's
yeah,
really
I know.
good. Yeah.
I'll get there one day, 10 years
All
from now.
right. So I
what are
just
you binging?
finished What We Do in the Shadows, which is a mockumentary. It's about 3 vampires who live in a house together, like they're roommates, and in Staten Island. And wait,
Obviously.
there's a fourth vampire.
Where vampires live.
The fourth vampire is an emotional vampire, though.
Okay.
So he's always having these terrible conversations with his roommates, like, "Oh, hey, yeah, things are just not great in my life right now,"
Yeah.
and like bringing everybody down.
Right.
It's hilarious. In a couple of episodes, we follow him to work, where he has a competitor, like an emotional vampire competitor at work, and he just hates her because she's like one-upping him all the time.
She sucks the energy out of everybody else before he can get to it. Yeah.
Exactly right. And the show is based on a movie from several years ago set in New Zealand.
Really?
Same premise. There are these 4 vampires who live in a house together, and they're flatmates. And they go out together, they party, they look for victims. And one of them has a familiar who's a human who's
Wait, what's a familiar?
It's like a human being that like wants to be a vampire.
a
and
human
so-
who wants to become a vampire and is willing to do all the grunt work associated with 4 people who live in a house who never want to do the dish. Like
I've got it. Okay.
Within the
So
first
he's
10
like
minutes,
their do-boy.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Within the first 10 minutes, there's a flatmate meeting about the pile of dishes in the sink and why nobody's doing the dishes. And these 2 vampires are like kind of mouthing off at each other, and like it gets more and more intense until they're bats and they're in the air.
Oh my God.
Bats. It's really funny. Right. So What We Do in the Shadows is funny. It's a good
Okay,
show.
I'm gonna. Gosh, you guys have given me so many great ideas. Thank you.
Wow.
This was worth it already.
It'll be something to do when like The Walking Dead starts to kind of careen because
it does jump the shark at some point, right? Yeah.
I was gonna say today The Walking Dead is not the masterpiece that it was in those first few years.
I just saw the one where Dale died. You remember?
Wow!
Dale?
Look
yes.
Spoiler alert!
Come on, that's
so our rule on this show.
That's from 2010.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say our rule on this show is that we don't spoil anything from the last 3 years. That's well out of that.
So I abided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
It's totally great.
Yeah. Dale was kind of like the what do you call it? The moral compass of that show.
Absolutely.
So when he went, it was
Don't tell me what happens.
Yeah.
But I can imagine.
Yeah.
Interesting choice of the writers to take the moral compass and just be like, see you later.
I feel like
okay. Yeah, no, I'm not going to spoil it for her.
Don't say it.
Right? Yeah, don't.
Yeah. Somebody, no. Anyway.
I have an idea.
Okay.
Tell us all about Kerry Barrett Consulting.
Oh, there's so much to tell. So, Kerry Barrett Consulting is, thank you for having me here, by the way.
Of course.
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Absolutely.
I'm new. My business is new. I started it
For a second, I really thought you were going to say you are new at Kerry Barrett Consulting.
I am new at Kerry Barrett.
Coincidentally.
You're a new employee. I know. My boss is the same name as me. That's why she hired me. My boss is me. My business is 8 months old. I am a media trainer and a public speaking coach. And I also provide brand storytelling, and I assist with media pitching, broadcast news, and cable news TV. That's where I come from. I come from a broadcast TV background, 20 years in that industry as an anchor, reporter, and a producer.
Wow.
And most recently, WNBC in New York on Today New York, their morning program. I was an anchor and reporter there. And now I'm taking all of that experience that I curated over those 20 years, and I am bringing them to people who need to up their game, whether they're on a stage in front of people, whether they're moving into a new position that requires them to speak more, whether they're looking to secure paid speaking gigs, whether they just want to up their presence on video. And that kind of applies to a number of different elements. I have some clients who are looking to pitch themselves to, let's say, a CNN or an MSNBC as a financial contributor. Well, we need to do media training. We need to get a sizzle reel together for you. I have other clients who are doing brand stories, right? They want a video piece, a longer format piece that tells the story of their business and how they help their clients. And then I have people who realize that video is where it's at in terms of marketing themselves and getting their message out there and helping them really scale that like, no, trust factor. But they're not comfortable on video, which I get. I mean, video is inherently, it's not natural to be sitting in front of lights and cameras. And I know if you're watching this, you can't see necessarily what's going on in the background. But in this setup,
pan around the room whenever I get up.
Okay, yeah, there's cameras and there's lights and there's boom mics, a microphone that's above our head, and that's not a natural setting for most people, even if they're talking on their cell phone. And so I help people learn how to kind of get on that video train and make sure that their presentation is the best that it can be, so that they can use that medium in the best way possible to spread their message and grow their business and their brand.
What's a sizzle reel? I've never heard that term before.
So a sizzle reel, I'm actually working on one right now for a financial client. Excuse me. A sizzle reel is basically, it varies in length, but depending on the amount of content somebody has to put on it, it's usually somewhere in between 2 to 4 minutes. And it is basically a highlight reel. So it's meant to show a couple of things. And it's not a continuous story. It's not, chronological. It is a series of clips, usually 15 seconds to 30 seconds a piece, that show a number of things. It shows you know how to handle a camera. You can speak compellingly and you can be interesting on camera. B, you have a personality, right? You have to have something that people will want to watch, even if you're talking, especially, there you go, just like that. Especially if you're talking about something can be kind of dry, like finances. And then it has to show that you don't have 3 heads. You're not terribly repugnant to look
Camera
at,
ready.
right? Really, it's one of the more superficial aspects of camera work, but it's a part of it. And it doesn't mean you have to be a supermodel or, an actress or an actor. It just means that you need to know what works for you on camera and what doesn't work for you on camera. That means makeup and clothes and hair and, right, how far. Some people are like, should I sit way back in my seat? I'm like, no, don't do that, because it looks like you're, about to put your feet up and take a nap. There's certain ways of presenting yourself that are different on camera than they are in person. So the highlight reel aims to show all of those things in smaller package that I can then send, or the client can then send to an MSNBC or CNN or Today Show or whatever. That says, look I'm an expert on all of this. I'm really good at it. I want to talk about this on your show. Have me on. It shows that you're capable of being on camera. In essence, is what it does.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what is your background? How did you get
To this?
Yeah.
So this is I think an interesting story. I started out in college as a pre-veterinary medicine major.
Oh, wow.
My goodness.
Yeah, it's 180. I did that for 2 years. I realized that chemistry and I were never going to be friends. But I
had the same realization at one point.
This is just not going to work.
No.
Chemistry is cutting into my social life. My father was so proud. So I took a year and a half off because I was wasting time and I was wasting money, but I didn't know what it was that I wanted to do. My school, Clemson University, is where I did my undergrad, had a great pre-veterinary medicine program. They had just really started the communications program when I was there. And I said, you know what? There's a whole host of things I could do with a communications degree. Surely I can find something after I graduate that I can use to make a living.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, maybe this will help me overcome my deathly fear of public speaking. I loathed it. Going all the way back to like 6th grade, I was the person in the back of the room in a puddle, possibly of my own vomit, like rocking in the fetal position or passed out because I did, even if it was a group presentation and I could hide behind other people, I hated it. Yeah. So I said, this is maybe one way that I can kick that. And so I re-enrolled. I got an internship at a local TV station because, hey, it's 3 credits and I don't have to sit in a classroom and this should be interesting. And from day one, I loved it. So then I had to figure out how, in fact, I was going to overcome this fear of public speaking. I went on to get my master's degree, a bunch of more additional internships, and then I got my first job in Wichita Falls, Texas, which is where I really eventually learned to overcome that fear that I had. Talking in front of a camera is a little bit different than talking in front of a live audience. You have people in the studio that are watching you, but you don't have a sea of faces. Right. So my experience was that was a good introduction to overcoming that fear. And then the additional exposure, station events, emceeing, charity events or auctions or hosting, Susan G. Komen, Race for the Cure. I did that a number of times. Those little bites and introductions into speaking to a large audience that was in front of me helped me gradually overcome those fears. And now I'm here.
I'm working on a theory that is like everybody is fear of public speaking.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I do all of our videos here, and I constantly have people, many of which for the first time are sitting in front of that camera. And so it's something you have to kind of work with every single day. You and I were not like awesome at this when we first started.
We were not. We were really rough.
Yeah, and
I think everybody is.
67 episodes later, we've kind of figured it out. But
it's true.
Go ahead.
Well, no, it is. It's the doing. That's how you learn it. I mean, it really is. You cannot read your way into being good on camera or a good public speaker. It really is. The learning is in the doing. 100%.
You know what? The thing that helped me the most, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect in front of an audience, but I'm a lot less afraid than I used to be. And the thing that helped the most was sitting in an audience, watching somebody struggle to keep the attention of the audience and realizing nobody's really paying 100% attention anyway.
Yeah.
We all have that internal dialogue, the longest conversation of our lives, the one with ourselves. You know, what do I need to pick up from the grocery later? Who's going to get the kids tonight? Is ballet tomorrow or is that Saturday? When is the recital? Like, there's this litany of stuff that's constant. Nobody's really paying that close of attention anyway. So just take your time and chill out and be cool.
Chill out and be cool. And the key is, when you're good, the key is to try and get them to pay attention. Right. That's harder than anything else. It really is, which is why I say that first 30 seconds, whether you're on camera or you're on it has to sing. I mean, it really does, because in 30 seconds is being generous. I think it's closer to 8. If you haven't made them giggle or smile or said something that is striking, they're out. For better or for worse, it's really hard to get them back.
YouTube records video views as 3 seconds or 10 seconds. If you don't get them in those 3 seconds,
you're done.
3 seconds.
They consider 3 seconds intent to watch. So they record a video view as 3 seconds. Wow.
It's pretty crazy. It used to be a little bit longer than that, but I think as our attention spans gradually decrease, that number is shrinking to
And the
3
amount of
seconds
stuff
now.
competing
Yeah.
for our attention.
Oh my gosh, it's
you know?
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's hard.
Wow.
Yeah.
But fun. I feel like it's an overwhelming thing to think about, let alone do.
Being on video?
Yeah,
Like
well-
putting video content?
Video, but
Out there?
also being on camera, like
Yeah.
to a live, to a nationwide audience.
Yeah.
That's scary.
It's tough.
So I can't decide what's worse, that or 100 people in front of you waiting for you to entertain them. Do you know what I mean?
I think 100 people in front of you waiting for you to entertain them.
Yeah.
Probably.
I think, here's the thing. You mentioned that people aren't watching you anyway.
Right.
And I think one of the toughest things, and I don't struggle with this so much anymore, but I'm very aware of it, is that people have this this expectation when you're standing up in front of them that you're going to have these fabulous words of wisdom, and if you don't deliver, and you don't deliver, and then you watch them tune out, you watch them disengage, or
Check their phone.
Yes, it is so frustrating.
Yeah.
And I always advise people, if I'm giving a workshop or a seminar, I try and go in a little bit early to any sort of event like that. And whether it's a networking event or whether I'm just there as kind of a keynote for a larger event going on, and I try, if I don't know anybody there, to make a few friends who I have, or at least I have a bit of an extended conversation with. And that way, if I'm up on stage, and this is a piece of advice I think everybody can use, you have 4 friendlies in the audience somewhere, or 3 or 2 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then you look at them when you need that moment, that person to buoy you or kind of anchor you, or you need that friendly face that's going to smile back at you and pay attention to you. Now, if you look at them and they're looking at your phone, you're probably SOL. But
I know, right?
But look at them and be that anchor. And if you're in the audience and you see somebody looking at you, be that person that smiles back and helps encourage people to go on and not feel like they want to drop through a hole in the floor. And we've all felt that before. That's not an unfamiliar feeling to most of us.
Seriously.
Yeah. Good times.
So, Vinny, you were a communications major.
Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have much else to go on.
Well, no, but
I was
like-
at Ryder. I did journalism and multimedia communications. So yeah.
And are you doing what you wanted to do with that degree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't know, because I guess at the time, journalism was my main focus,
Yeah.
and I looked at multimedia communication as just where I kind of saw journalism going.
Yep.
And today, I mean, I haven't written anything in a while, but I do all the video work, and I head up our social media team. So it's gone in a different direction than I would have thought.
Yeah.
But I'm using those same skills and those same tenets, capturing people's attention, making content that people, want to read. Yeah.
It is, I think, too, a lot of people may have entered into a journalism program, and the business itself, print and, of course, broadcast and cable, it's an industry that's in a state of contraction.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, I think, now have that degree but aren't doing exactly what they thought necessarily they'd be doing with it. Their career has ebbed and flowed, and it's taken some turns, and maybe they're here or here, and they thought they would be here. But you're using those same principles of communication and imparting knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting, you look at the inverted pyramid. I don't know if you'd be aware of what that, basically what it is the most important information is up front, and then as in this case, a story goes on, you get to the stuff that's not as important later on. No matter what you're doing it for, these same principles apply.
Yep.
So when you're building a community on Facebook, when you're building a community on Instagram, you want that important stuff or that eye-grabbing stuff, like you mentioned before, those first 3 seconds, that's your lead, and then it all kind of focuses down. So the same stuff applies. We as human beings don't really change. It's just the media and our attention spans.
Storytelling is the same too. People are drawn to stories, and it's those little elements of humanity within a story that is, I think, what draws people to a person or even a business or a brand or a product. And that storytelling stays the same. It's just that the structure or the format of it, the way in which it's delivered is changing.
Yeah, Hero with 1,000 Faces, the hero's journey, there was a template for all heroes, that we've used for 5,000 years now, and the best stories conform to it to a T.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a formula.
Interesting.
For sure.
So I always heard that there were 5 or 7 storylines, right? But I've never heard.
I'll send you the hero's journey. Basically,
Yeah.
there's a template, like person is called to action, person, goes out, and there's little beats that every movie hits. Like, if you watch Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Back to the Future, like all of these movies hit these same exact beats, like in order.
Right.
Yeah. We love the character. They just put a new face on it every couple of years, Yeah. That's why sequels are always so problematic, because now we're not, some sequels will still go to that same formula again, but for the most part, you're doing something new, and people are like,
I know, and you're trying to one-up the one before, which usually ends up meaning that it's not as authentic, which is another big issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
All right.
there's a lot to it.
So I think we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to play a game.
Oh, okay. I'm in.
And we're back, and it is now time to play Awful or Awesome, which is a game where I'm going to name 3 things, and we each have to decide quickly if they're awful or awesome, and be prepared to defend your answers.
Oh, God.
We ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
Who's going first?
Doesn't matter.
Shout it out.
Oh, shout it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
First up, Keanu Reeves.
Oh, God.
I know.
He's so awful. He's awesome.
Wow, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
The original question was the renaissance of Keanu Reeves, because I feel like he went away for a while and then he came back.
When did he go away?
But then then Vinny posed this question to me, when did he go away? And I was like, well,
I feel like for a
know.
decade. Like since The Matrix, pretty much.
Right.
But see, the thing was, when I asked her that, she was talking about pre-Matrix.
Right, I was.
So
Like
you were talking
Parenthood.
about like in between, say, like Bill and Ted
Right.
and Speed.
Never saw that.
It was a movie. It was the movie based on what we know as the TV show.
Oh.
Steve Martin was in it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I
I
didn't
know
see
it.
it
Diane
either.
West.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I know the one you're talking. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yes.
he played the boyfriend of Diane West's daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was good, but he was like like Ted. He was a lot like Ted.
Right. I feel okay. So here's how I feel about. I feel like he is a good guy. He's found love again. He had some tragedy in his life.
did.
I'm rooting for him as a person.
Same.
Wow.
As an actor, I feel like it's,
He plays the same character over and over
yeah,
and
and
over
it's
again.
always a little bit overdone.
It was like Neo, John Wick, Constantine, were sort of all the same character.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah.
kind of the same, yeah. With the exception of, what was the name of that movie? Always Be My Maybe?
Yeah, You'll
Did
Always
you
Be
see
My
that?
Oh yeah, it's been a while, but that
It was cute,
true.
and he played
Yes.
himself as
Yeah.
this overly pretentious kind
Yeah,
of
pompous
version
sorta,
of
yeah.
himself.
Yes.
I thought that was hilarious.
Wasn't he in a movie called like The River House or the Lake House where he had a girlfriend that was like they were in 2 different time
Yeah.
dimensions and they were sending
Yeah,
letters back
Sandra
and forth.
Bullock?
Maybe
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it was Sandra Bullock.
Was it seriously?
I think it was. It was.
For
yeah.
real, but it got
Wow.
like no play. I don't think many
No,
people saw it.
no.
I don't think the critics liked it.
No, they didn't.
No.
It was super depressing.
I feel like
Oh,
I
yeah.
have to watch that movie. Like,
Yeah.
that just sounds so
I think
weird
it's
and
called
cool.
like the Lake House.
I think it is called the Lake House. They get like somehow magically their mailbox allows them to transmit letters from different time zones, not time zones, excuse me, time periods.
Yeah.
Time periods, like 10 years in the past or whatever it was. And I know it sounds a little far fetched.
No, I'm
like
game.
a typical Keanu Reeves movie.
Typical Keanu Reeves.
So yeah, I think
Quiz,
I
hot
would
shot. What are you gonna do?
shoot the hostage.
Shoot the hostage.
Oh my god, right? So I think I agree with you. He's
Yeah.
so awful. He is awesome.
Yeah.
I could agree with that.
Yeah. He's got his own brand. of-
I've never even really been like a Matrix fan.
He's
so
well
it wasn't
branded.
even like, yeah.
It's always on brand.
Oh my god, I couldn't watch the rest of the John Wicks, and I almost couldn't get through the first one because of the puppy. I
didn't see it.
We're
So
not-
no,
okay, never
it's
mind.
not even a
Okay,
spoiler.
no.
The plot of the movie is that like he's a former like hitman for the mob or whatever, and one of them kills his dog, and he's like, all right, well, scorched earth now. Like, yeah.
He goes literally scorched earth over the entire family.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't somebody kill his wife too? But I feel like the dog is what really set him off.
It's funny because the dog dies on the day. Oh, not the day of the funeral, because the wife, they go to the funeral and the dog
Yeah.
is there, I think.
Really?
So then the rest of the movie is just a revenge kick. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
And I never saw the second or third one. I actually only saw the first one when the third one came out this year. I was like, well, I might as well sit down and watch these John Wicks.
Right.
Didn't have like a particularly negative response to them, but I just watched the first one.
Just
and I
kind
haven't
of
gotten
like a
around to the
meh.
second or third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so violent. I got to watch those kinds of things after the kid goes to bed. And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you know, when do you have time for that? Like,
I know.
Never.
Never. That's
And your
exactly
kid doesn't
right.
go to bed.
Never.
Oh, that's the worst.
That's the worst.
Oh my God. How old
Yeah.
is your child?
She's 2.5, and like she doesn't sleep, she doesn't really eat, but she has an infinite font of energy, and I don't know where it came
That-
from. You know.
Is awful.
Yeah.
God
my
bless
God.
you. You look fabulous.
Thank you.
He doesn't look like he's got a
No.
2.5-year-old.
You know, you
Sleep.
adapt. So
do,
like,
right,
you know, I haven't gotten a full night's sleep in 2.5 years, but you know, yeah.
That'll
Eventually,
change.
you adapt, or you have a psychotic breakdown.
I mean, we were just talking about how lack of sleep decreases your immunity, and so you get sick more. And it's how they torture people.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
sleep deprivation is
Yes.
a torture device. Yeah.
It's true.
I'm absolutely certain that at the daycare they're just like playing some game where they spit in each other's mouths because there's like every other day she's coming home sick, you know. And I'm just like,
He's just a faucet of boogers.
Oh
and,
my
like,
God.
people don't believe me. My brother, shout out to my brother, thought that I was like making something up when I was like, no, she's sick. And he was like, she had the flu like 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, you're right, she did have the flu
She
2
did,
weeks ago.
yeah.
And now she has the cold.
And did you get the flu too?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they
that's
all
standard
did.
out. I know. Oh, that sucks.
Done. All right, moving
Also
on.
awful. And
Also
not
awful,
awesome.
yeah. Okay, next up is clementines.
Clementines are
Fruit.
great.
Well, are they though?
Yeah.
Great is
What is,
not
it? Is this another Chef Boyardee
Great,
battle? Like,
awesome.
clementines are awesome.
Okay, awesome. I don't. If my only choices are awful and awesome, I guess awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I feel mediocre about them. To be
Right.
honest.
Okay,
yeah.
so I love how easy they are to peel.
Yes,
That's what makes
But it
them
takes
awesome.
like
Yes.
10 of them
also true.
for them to be any kind of snack.
I don't
Yeah.
consider it like a meal. It's like it's a snack.
But
you
it's
know?
Yeah.
fruit. It's not any kind of snack. Like, it's not going to fill you up. It's not
But
gonna,
like no fruit is
No.
gonna fill you up. Like I eat a banana
not
and I
true.
feel like I'm more hungry than I was before I ate the
It's
banana.
all the sugar.
Oh, is that what it is?
I don't know.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna drop some knowledge on me. Like this is why.
I think it's when it's like your insulin spikes and then you crash or something along those lines. Yeah.
That's interesting because that's why I try to stay away from sugar. But of
Yeah.
course, fruit has sugar in
Has
it.
sugar in it.
And so,
Isn't it like good sugar? Am I just lying to myself?
Fructose.
Like,
There's
Right?
all sugar is sugar, but
Yeah.
there's some sugar in fruit that comes obviously with fiber and other nutrients. So it's not like
Right.
you're eating spoonfuls of white sugar. It's right, but it's still sugar.
Okay.
So, yeah.
you know what? When you said spoonfuls of white sugar, I had a moment and I just was like, what would that be? It would be delicious all the time.
It is delicious all the time. I've
I
done
used
it.
helps the medicine go down, right?
I used to date this guy who he would make French toast and then he would take his sugar bowl and
yeah.
sprinkle white sugar
yeah.
and then add syrup.
I'm fully supportive of this.
It was the most amazing food I've ever eaten in my life. And then when we broke up, I had to stop doing that because it was gonna kill me. Pants don't fit.
No,
Like,
that's
just-
not a good look. Yeah. But
Wow.
it's true. It does. You know what? I'm ashamed to admit this, but also not really. On more than one occasion, after one of those hellacious wake up at 1:30, I take 4 hours of sleep total during the day. I have been known to have been caught in my kitchen with a spoon in the brown sugar jar, spoon in one hand, glass of wine in the other.
Oh my God.
That's how I make it.
Brown
through the
sugar?
afternoon. Yes,
It's delicious,
It
but
is
I've
delicious.
never thought about eating it.
Whole or
Well,
like just by itself.
so-
It's hard. Like it gets hard, and you gotta. It requires energy. So I'm getting a little bit of a workout as I break.
It's not a workout. When I was really little, my grandma would put brown sugar in her coffee, and whenever she fixed herself a cup of coffee, she would give me like a little bit of it.
Yes.
I remember loving it.
Delicious.
But it was sugar,
I
so
know
I'm
it's
not
still sugar.
surprised.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Don't do these things with Chloe because she will be off the wall.
Yeah.
She doesn't need sugar to be crazy.
She doesn't. No, she does not. All right, last one. Cover bands.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Like,
I mean, you know what? It's kind of like a Keanu Reeves situation.
right.
Okay.
They can be so awful that it makes the night fabulous because you just can't help but laugh and smile, and then you end up going out and
And
dancing.
dancing
like,
anyway.
Yes,
It's
100%.
an endless supply of laughing and
Yeah.
entertainment.
Yep.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of like YouTube cover bands, like
Ooh, what's that?
So like, you go on YouTube and you find a song that you really like, but now these people have made it something totally different. Like let's just say like take a song, give me a song that you like, just something.
Back to Life by, what was that?
Get back to life, back to reality.
So now imagine a metal version of that. You know, like that's the kind of thing that you can find on YouTube.
Wow.
Because YouTube is awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah.
YouTube is awesome.
So I do that a lot.
that.
Like I'll take something I like and I want to hear like something totally different, like a different take on it. You know.
Oh, okay.
You get a lot of like really slow versions of things too.
Yeah. You know what's good for that? Grey's Anatomy. Like they always have some slowed down version of some 90s ballad, or not ballad, like rock song.
Right.
Yeah.
And they make it like almost like an acoustic
They make
kind
it a
of
ballad,
thing.
right.
Yeah.
It's
wow.
kind of
That's a popular thing to do now is to like
Apparently.
take, and the slow piano version. If we ever have like our last episode of this show, I want to get my supervisor Bob Considine to make us like a really slow, sad, like version of our very like with the
our
theme
theme
song.
song.
Yeah.
You're upbeat.
Or maybe not. Maybe no, because that would just be too sad of a note to end the show on. But I was always thinking about that, like the slow piano, like.
Right.
And now I'm imagining our theme song like that. So yeah.
Everybody depressed.
Yeah.
That makes me sad. I don't want to think about our show ending.
No, it's not
True.
ending.
No.
So on that note, we have this segment of the show where we like to give advice to younger people.
Okay.
Or really anybody. It doesn't have to be.
If you're not younger, stop listening.
So one of the things, I mean, you mentioned, that you do consulting for video. You know, I have a lot of people that come into this place and they're on camera for the first time and sometimes not the first time,
Right.
but they could still use some advice. So give us some advice that you would give to somebody who's going to be in front of the camera for the first time, maybe in front of an audience for
Right.
the first time. Yeah.
So there's a couple of best practices that I think overlap, but one of the things that I get asked a lot about either medium, what do I wear? My basic is this: women always look good in jewel tones. So
What's a jewel tone?
it is emerald, it is fuchsia, it is
Sapphire.
bright sapphire,
Yeah.
cobalt,
Sure. Bright
and
colors.
Bright colors,
Isn't there
right?
a jewel for every color?
I think so.
Yeah, but you don't want like a topaz or, I mean, listen, if you know your colors and you know what your background is and you know how to do your makeup depending on what you're wearing, then by all means, like you're more educated than most people. But if you're not sure and you're second guessing what to wear, blue is a universally flattering color for everybody. So blue, solid, women look great in V-necks. They tend to be more flattering, especially when it comes to camera, which can add some weight, unfortunately. That's just the way it goes. Excuse me. Blue is a universally flattering color for both on stage and on camera. I had a stylist say to me one time, if you ever want to go to an event and get lost in the crowd, wear black, because that's what everybody wears. And it's true. Wearing a color on stage for a big event is fabulous. Wearing black on camera, it can look great. It looks great on you right now, but if you don't know the quality of your cameras, black, red, and white are colors to stay away from. Blue is a sure bet. Another question that I get is, what do I do with my hands?
Yeah.
And that hands down, it's what do I wear and what do I do with my hands? And here's my question. Or my answer, excuse me. Unless you were like wildly, waving your hands around like Talladega Nights style, if you ever saw that movie, do with your hands whatever you would normally do with your hands. And the reason is, if you talk with your hands and you try and stifle that, it stifles everything else about your speech, it stifles your natural body language, it stifles your ability to communicate authentically. So do with your hands whatever it is that you would do. Watch yourself on camera. If your hands look distracting, make sure that you are using them in ways that emphasize what you're talking about. Other than that, I think you are good to go. And I would say the other thing is to remember energy. It's another big mistake that people make. They tend to think that they are very animated when in fact they look like they have been medicated. And I know this. That's not a criticism necessarily. I know this because it's something I did, right? I remember watching myself in those first few broadcasts and I'm like, wow, I thought it was really like bam, jumping off the screen and I look like I'm tired. Everything on camera is flattened. Everything on a big stage with a large audience that goes back, your gestures, everything are diminished and muted. So energy, gestures are always usually a little bit larger than life in both mediums. There's, every rule is made to be broken, but as a general rule, that's one to follow. And when you practice, don't practice for perfection, just practice to plan. People practice and they stop when they make a mistake. And one of the most important things to do is to keep pushing on, because you practice to learn how to handle those mistakes. So if you're up on stage and your PowerPoint goes down, or you've got a heckler in the crowd, or you lose your train of thought, you need to have the tools to be able to handle those mistakes and keep on moving. So when you practice to plan for that stuff. Don't practice for perfection. Perfection is
unattainable.
Oh, it's unattainable. It's a waste of your time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that piece of advice, because I feel like people don't do it often enough. They don't call it, they're like the elephant in the room. Let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
PowerPoint fell. Whatever. It's done.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, give me a second. I'm going to try to wiggle this or whatever.
Right.
It happens.
And you think in your mind, oh my God, I'm failing. I can't believe this. I wish the hole would open up in the stage and I would fall through. And meanwhile, everybody out in the audience is thinking, wow, she handled that pretty well.
Right.
I wonder if I could have handled it that well. I mean, really, honest to God, that's what they're thinking, unless you're, a complete disaster, but let's hope that's not the case.
And I feel like in most cases, they're on your side.
Yeah, they
nobody
are.
is rooting for you to fall on your face. Nobody is rooting for you to fail. They all want, because that would be uncomfortable for them.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
It makes the audience nervous.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so if you just roll with the punches and be like, oh, well, that didn't work. Let's keep going and see what happens.
Have a little humor about it, a little bit. And really, honestly, I say turn your mistakes into personality showcases. Because a mistake is something, if you handle it well, can really draw your audience to you. It can endear you to them. And if you can handle it well, then people appreciate that.
Exactly true.
Yep.
Yeah, very well said.
I meant to tell you, the last episode of our show. So I subscribe to our show on YouTube on my personal account, because, I like to see when it comes through and everything. When you hover over like the little thumbnail, it gives you like a small little 2 or 3 second clip of just like random little bits from the show. And I was so animated in our last show that I swear the actual thumbnail of our show from the last episode is me going like this. And there's no point in the episode where I did this.
Wow.
But it pulled like little clips.
Random little clips.
And it didn't take any of you or any of our guests. It was just me going like
And what did it do? It butted them all together?
Yeah, it made one little clip of me going
That's
crazy.
a sizzle reel.
Yes.
So,
YouTube has a sense of humor.
Yes. So I laughed so hard I dropped my phone. I meant to record that and send it to you. But yeah.
I definitely want to see that.
Check it out.
I thought I did subscribe, but I guess I obviously don't. So I need to subscribe so that I can see that.
Yeah.
You should definitely subscribe to your own show.
Exactly. Help the numbers just that one person more.
Communications 101. Oh my God. Okay.
All right, so is there anything coming up that you want to promote?
Oh gosh, so I do have a workshop coming up in March. I'm still nailing down the date, so I'll post that information on my website and on my LinkedIn page, but it'll be a media training seminar, about 4 hours, in which you'll get media training, you'll get the opportunity to be on camera, we'll have a professional photographer there, videographer, and what every attendee will be able to walk out with is a 30-second professionally produced introduction video about themselves and their business. So they can post that on their website as a banner video, they can use it on LinkedIn, they can use little bits of it on social media. So it'll be media training and that video production. Again, it'll be the end of March. I don't have the date nailed down just yet, but you can find that information on my website.
And let's hear the website. However
website.
somebody would get a hold of you to check out this stuff or hire you.
Absolutely. So my website is kerrybarrettconsulting.com. My email is Kerry, Kerry, at kerrybarrettconsulting.com. And then my phone number is 973-210-4952. You can reach me at any of those outlets. And there's also a form on my website you can fill in if you need to get in touch with me or book a call or whatever.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was so much fun.
This was awesome. I feel like my first podcast was not that bad.
It's all going to be
Huge
downhill
success.
from here, I promise.
Yeah, it'll be downhill.
This was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So I think that's our show. Thank you to our listeners and our subscribers. We appreciate the support. Thank you to New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, the official sponsor of the show. They do home, auto, and workers' comp, so check them out. And finally, thank you to Kerry Barrett of Kerry Barrett Consulting. This was so fun. I'm
pleasure.
Really excited that you came out.
And we didn't even swear.
We didn't even swear.
Yeah, we were talking about that beforehand, yeah.
No bleeping necessary.
No, I know. What a shame.
I know,
Maybe we'll just
right?
throw it in right now.
All right, we'll see you next time. Bye.